All right, welcome to a new week in our class, and this week is about instant messaging and blogs. And so you'll be reading in the textbook, chapters 10 and 11, and then also reading this article on blogging for computer-assisted language learning. Now, I realize not all of you are language teachers, but it's kind of interesting to read about how blogs are used in the language learning process and how they could be used in the learning language process. So take a look at those readings, and then you'll have some presentations as well. And these are just about using the blogging tools. There's Kid Blog, Blogger Blog, and Blogger Blog posting. So Kid Blog is kind of the younger, more user-friendly one for kids, especially for probably elementary level. And then there's also other blog tools out there. EduBlogs comes to mind. But these are kind of the main two suggested ones for just creating a blog and having this be able to be set up online. But then, of course, the big bulk of the work that you're going to be doing this week is your discussion assignment. Hopefully you have got something set up and are ready to get started on a discussion. If you haven't yet, you should do that immediately because you need to have a discussion for about a week's time. And this is due on Saturday. So the discussion assignment, you've learned about tools for online discussions. Now you need to choose a target group of learners, create a good discussion question or topic for this group, and plan to follow best practices for hosting a discussion that you have learned in this class. And then you're supposed to engage at least two other people in the discussion for about a week's time. And those can be from our class or from outside of our class. And then get logged in and discussing and have a discussion. And you're going to submit a paper by the end of this week that provides a link to the discussion. Describe your discussion question or topic, people who participated in the discussion, the best practices that you followed, and what about your discussion went particularly well, and what would you improve upon for next time. And so you'll be graded on these things in your project when I get a chance to grade them after you've submitted it. So last week, a lot of the content was about discussions, and you had some interesting items that you learned from. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing here. So a lot of it was from the readings from the textbook, but also I think a lot of what you'll be wanting to look for is best practices for discussion boards. So these assignments that we had from last week that you were to read from Edutopia, one on PB Works here, and the one about tweeting for learning, although that was a little bit different. You'll kind of want to look at those and say, okay, what were some of the things that they talked about here, and what are some of the strategies that I used in my discussion? For instance, you might want to look back and say, okay, did I do some consensus building? Did I do some critical thinking? Did I support some critical thinking, support some reflection, that kind of a thing? How do I encourage, did I have some, good probing basic knowledge? Did I have some challenges that I gave to students? Ask for comparisons of themes or ideas and issues. Some of these things that are mentioned, I think especially in this article from last week. And then you might want to take a look too at this second one though, about critical thinking through online discussions, and just say, let's see. How did I support critical thinking? Did I ask some good questions? Did I maintain a focused discussion? Did I encourage full participation, not just from one student, for instance? And some types of questions that you can ask, how can we find out? What does this question assume? Some of these questions that you really want to probe in a discussion and get deeper in to the learning. So those are some things that you'll want to talk about in your assignment. Here's a probing question example that I asked, or here's a challenge that I administered or gave to students, or here is something that helped to get the discussion flowing, or to get more in depth, or to make the student think more critically about the concept. So that's the idea with the discussions assignment due this week. And of course, we're cruising into spring break, which will be next week, so there will be no activities the next week, but just submit your discussion activity for this week on Saturday.